عليكم السلام. صباح الخير.
Dr. Hatem, you are now live.
السلام عليكم. صباح الخير. I will start by thanking all the participants, the guest speakers, and attendees for their interest and presence. I have a short presentation to put you in the context of this event. This is a research outcome seminar, and the title and the theme of this event is Entrepreneurship and Sustainable Development. Before giving you an overview of the agenda of today, I have to present the QNRF, which is the main organizer of this event. QNRF is an entity of Qatar Foundation. Its vision is to enable R&D excellency in Qatar to diversify its economy and achieve knowledge-based society. Its main mission is to advance knowledge and education, build talents in research at all levels and all sectors, diversify Qatar's economy, improve the health and well-being of its citizens, sustain the environment, and preserve the security of its people by supporting original and competitive research in all fields of science that are aligned with the QRDI 2030 strategy. QNRF has large programs portfolio. We start by capacity building from K-12 to research training, passing through Europe and graduate students and postdoc programs like GISRA and PEDRA. We have also a large panel of research grants, national priority research program, standard and cluster, the TGRP, and the rapid call. We have also some promoting activities of research connections. These are CWSP and also ROS, the research outcome seminars like that of today. The ROS is generally nurtured by the results and outcomes of the NPRP projects, and also in some cases by very successful Europe projects from the capacity building programs. What is ROS? The ROS are a QNRF initiative designed to provide researchers with a public platform to share the results of their QNRF-funded cutting-edge research projects. Generally, in QNRF, we have 6 ROSs, at least 6 ROSs per year, and the social science, arts, and the humanities, we have to organize 1 ROS at least per year. How is the process in this case? In social science and the arts and the humanities, the today speakers respond to a call with the following themes: cultural identity, economic diversification, Gulf security, lifestyle, and quality of life, addressing Qatar's educational challenges, and population growth and sustainability. They choose economic diversification and sustainability as main theme, and in this theme we have seven sub-themes, and they choose between these 3 themes to propose projects on entrepreneurship. The first one is enabling and supporting entrepreneurship and small and medium-sized enterprises. This is sub-theme is directly linked to entrepreneurship research question. The second one is the sixth, the understanding of the nature of the risks and opportunities associated with the transformation of markets. This is also a very important topic because risks and transformation of markets are the main determinants of the entrepreneurship, and also the seventh sub-theme, which is ways to leverage the emerging technologies to benefit Qatar. We all know that emerging technologies give rise to opportunities to new entrepreneurship idea or potential idea. The topics of the ROS event today will include 5 main topics, but you know that we can't in 2 hours tackle all the facets of the entrepreneurship research question. The first topic will be societal attitudes towards entrepreneurship. The second is promotion of women entrepreneurship. The third, entrepreneurship and education. The fourth is entrepreneurship and export performance. And the fifth is entrepreneurship opportunities in fintech and reg tech. This is the agenda. We've been confronted to some technical problem this morning. I'm asking Sheikh Abdullah if Joanna joined us or not yet. She's waiting in another, I think.
I'm here, Dr. Hatem.
Okay. So thank you very much, Joanna, for accepting our invitation. You are the guest speaker today in this event. And without really wasting time, I give you the floor for a 15-minute presentation, which will be followed by a Q&A short session. But before that, please, and this is for all the attendees, I ask you to write your question in the chat to enable me to pose the question to the speaker. So the floor is yours, Joanna Handley, and she is the Research Director of Intelligence Qatar.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen.
Yes, please.
1 second.
Joanna, if you put on your camera, please.
Yes, of course. 1 second. My camera is on, and can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Could you put it in a slideshow, please? Yes.
There we go. Yes? Okay. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Hatem, and hello, everybody. And I'm sorry I was a little bit delayed at the start there. Welcome to this presentation on societal attitudes towards entrepreneurship in Qatar. I'm Joanna Handley, Research Director of Intelligence Qatar. I'm joined by our Managing Director, Tracy Kohinga. So who are we? Intelligence Qatar is a local market research agency based in West Bay. We've been conducting market research studies in Qatar since 2014. And one of these studies is the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, where we've been tracking levels of entrepreneurship in Qatar every year since 2016. So what is GEM? The Global Entrepreneurship Monitor has tracked levels of entrepreneurship across the world for 21 years. Since 1999, GEM has surveyed over 3 million adults in 114 countries. It's the largest and most extensive study of entrepreneurship, and in Qatar, the study is sponsored by Qatar Development Bank. In Qatar, there are two parts to GEM. The first is the Adult Population Survey. In 2019, this was 3,063 surveys of Qatar residents aged between 18 and 64 years. There's also the second part of GEM, which is the National Expert Survey. And in 2019, that was with 57 carefully chosen Qatar experts on entrepreneurship. This presentation provides a snapshot of the 2019 results of the Adult Population Survey. Just to give you a little bit of detail about the methodology, as I said, it was in 2019, it was 3,063 interviews with adults in Qatar aged between 18 and 64. They were of all ages, nationalities, genders, and all municipalities across Qatar, and this was according to census data. The Qatari sample was boosted to 30%. It was a random sample of the population with a structured questionnaire, and we conducted the interviews 50% by telephone and 50% face-to-face. In this presentation, I'm going to cover three things. Firstly, what is the level of entrepreneurial activity in Qatar? Then, what are society's attitudes towards entrepreneurship in Qatar? And finally, self-perceptions about entrepreneurship. Firstly, what is the level of entrepreneurial activity in Qatar? In 2019, a total of 14.7% of Qatar's adult population is involved in early stage entrepreneurial activity. Total early stage entrepreneurial activity, or the TEA, is the central indicator for the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. So it's the percentage of the adult population who are in the process of either starting a business or have already started a business which is less than 42 months old. That figure of 14.7% is rising in Qatar since 2016. In 2016, it was 7.8%, and in 2018, it was 8.5%. So now we look at entrepreneurial activity in Qatar by gender and nationality. So there are 295,201 Qatar residents who have started a new business within the past 2 years. Half of these are women. Very few countries have an equal TEA score between men and women. So this is great news for Qatar, and it's an interesting one. Usually the TEA is higher among men. When we look at the TEA score by nationality, we can see that it's higher amongst expats. This is a shift compared to 2018, and it's a bit of a challenge for Qatar. For entrepreneurship to happen, you need to have two things in a country. You need to have opportunity and you need to have necessity. In Qatar, there's plenty of opportunity for entrepreneurship, but the necessity is not there. So for Qatari nationals, there may not be much necessity to start their own business. And this is something Qatar needs to consider if they want to foster entrepreneurship amongst Qatari nationals going forwards. This is showing us total early entrepreneurship activity by age. So we can see that in 2019, it's highest amongst those aged 45 years and older. Now, in many economies, the most prevalent age for starting businesses is in the 25 to 34 or 35 to 44 age groups. So why is it different in Qatar? It's likely because the older age groups may have strengths to leverage, such as experience or access to resources and networks. Those aged 55 and older are most likely to think it's easy to start a business in Qatar, and they're least likely to fear failure. Looking at this, Qatar needs to consider initiatives to foster entrepreneurship at a younger age, introducing innovation and entrepreneurship concepts at early stages in school, for example. So now we turn to what are society's attitudes towards entrepreneurship in Qatar. Societal attitudes they've got a really important influence on entrepreneurship intent in a country. And in Qatar, there's a really positive attitude towards entrepreneurship. So we can see here that 82.1% of the adult population of Qatar consider starting a new business a desirable career choice. 87.1% believe that entrepreneurs are well regarded and enjoy a high level of social status and respect. 82.7% of the total adult population in Qatar agree that public media and the internet provide good coverage of successful new businesses. Now we can see that societal attitudes in Qatar are becoming more positive over time. So thinking that entrepreneurship is a good career choice has increased by 13.9 percentage points since 2018. Agreeing that there's a high status and respect for successful entrepreneurs has increased by 10.4 percentage points. And thinking that entrepreneurs garner substantial media attention has increased by 18.5 percentage points since 2018, which is a really substantial jump. When we look at this by gender, we can see that it's females that are more likely to think that successful entrepreneurs receive higher status in society. When we look at this by nationality, we can see that it's Qatar nationals who are least likely to think that there's enough media attention for entrepreneurs. I'll move on now to self-perceptions about entrepreneurship. Now, these are the indicators by which GEM measures self-perception about entrepreneurship. There are 6 indicators: entrepreneurial affiliation, perceived opportunities, perceived ease of starting a business, perceived capabilities, fear of failure, and entrepreneurial intention. So let's look at each of these in turn, starting with entrepreneurship affiliation. Affiliations with entrepreneurs can provide role models by encouraging potential entrepreneurs to pursue their ambitions of starting a business, and they can also offer mentorship. So in 2019, nearly 2/3 of adults in Qatar personally know someone who started a business or became self-employed in the last 2 years. Half of the respondents know at least 2 or more people who have recently started their own business. Nationals are substantially more likely than expats to personally know an entrepreneur. Men are also more likely than women to personally know an entrepreneur. So this shows that many adults in Qatar have access to a knowledgeable and motivated network of entrepreneurs, and this is a really important promoting factor for the spread of entrepreneurship. Then we look at perceived opportunities. 3 in 4 adults in Qatar see good opportunities for starting a business within the next 6 months. Qatari nationals are more likely than expats to see these good opportunities for starting a business. Perceived ease of starting a business. 2/3 of the adult population think that it is easy to start a business. A high 71.5% of Qatari nationals state it's easy to start a business in Qatar, compared to a slightly lower 64.4% of expats. So perceived capabilities. 75.5% of adults surveyed believe they have the knowledge, skills and experience required to start a new business. This is substantially up from 52.3% in 2018. Men and Qatari nationals are most likely to feel confident in their capabilities. In terms of fear of failure, 45.2% of those who see opportunities to start a business state fear of failure as a reason as to why they wouldn't start one. A slightly higher proportion of nationals than expats state that fear of failure would prevent them from starting a business. Men also fear failure more than women. Now, we touched on this a little bit before, but it's important to educate our youth so they don't fear failure and so that they're willing to try new things and be prepared to fail. This would encourage and foster entrepreneurship in the country. And finally, entrepreneurial intention. 45.3% of the adult population are expecting to start a new business in the next 3 years. entrepreneurial intentions are higher amongst expat population than amongst nationals. Half of the foreigners surveyed who are currently not involved in entrepreneurial activity state their intention to start a business in the next 3 years, compared to a third of Qatari nationals. So this chart summarizes what we've spoken about a little bit. Here you can see that all the self-perception indicators have risen since 2018, and most quite substantially. And here is the difference between genders and nationalities. So in terms of self-perceptions about entrepreneurship, when it comes to entrepreneurial affiliation, it's more likely to be men and Qatari nationals who personally know someone who started a business. For perceived opportunities, it's more likely to be Qatari nationals. For perceived ease of starting a business, it's the same, it's more likely to be Qatari nationals. For perceived capabilities, it's higher for men. For fear of failure, it's more prominent for men and for Qatari nationals. And for entrepreneurial intentions, it's more prominent for expats. So that is the end of this presentation. I hope you found it informative. If you'd like to learn more about the GEM study in Qatar, or read the full 2019 report, or even those for previous years, they're all available on the QDB website under their publications. Thank you very much for your time and for listening to me today.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, full of data and probably also full of interesting questions from the attendees. I didn't see a question, so I will abuse from my position as chairman to ask you the first question. So if I can resume your presentation and try to give a kind of typology of the Qatari entrepreneur, we can say that he's equally man or woman, aged between 45 and 64. He or she enjoys a high level of social status and respect. He or she knows at least 2 or more people who have started their own business. He or she perceives it is easy to start business. So finally, it seems like this guy has no real problems. And to try to balance this ideal representation, I would ask you, what are the main fears of the entrepreneurs in the Qatari entrepreneurs in particular? What are the main fears? Yes.
The main fears of the Qatari entrepreneurs in particular, I am not sure it's so much about fear. Although I do believe we have that data, and I think Tracy may be able to answer this better than me. But I think it's more about the necessity. So there is not enough necessity for Qatari entrepreneurs to go ahead and start their own businesses. They are more likely to take the government jobs and to work the comfortable positions and comfortable hours and salaries, and they don't necessarily have the necessity, the need to really make that great wealth and income and take their entrepreneurship and their business ideas forwards. So they've got the opportunity and everything is there, and they have the intent as well, but the necessity, the drive is possibly missing.
Okay, thank you. Tracy, have you something to add? Yes, please.
So, hello everyone. I agree with Joanna. I support what Joanna was saying, and the GEM study doesn't actually delve into what they fear most in terms of starting business. But from previous research that we have done, we would say that there is social shame in terms of if the business is not successful and fails, then many people fear the social consequences of that being seen as a failure. And I think that's probably one of the main fears as to why people wouldn't start a business, and also the financially being able to support yourself while you are starting a business. So if you have the option of having a full-time job where you're guaranteed paid employment, as opposed to taking the risk of not receiving a regular income, that is also a major fear of an entrepreneur. Yeah. So I'd say these are the two biggest fears. But maybe it's worth more research into that as to what's preventing people from starting businesses. I think it's worth considering as an additional study.
Yes, thank you. There is a question from our colleague, Dr. Hindi. What do you recommend in terms of regulation to encourage younger population to start a business?
Yes, I can answer that if you like, Joanna.
Yeah, okay.
So we've done quite a lot of research in terms of asking key stakeholders and leaders within the country how they think we can foster entrepreneurship in Qatar. And one of the main recommendations is to look at bringing entrepreneurial or developing entrepreneurial and innovative skills at school level. So this would be an education policy in terms of bringing entrepreneur type programs into the school curriculum. So starting from a very young age. So children need to learn to experiment. They need to learn that it's okay to try new things and fail, so that when they're older, they're prepared to take that risk and innovate and develop new ideas and be creative. So this is one of the main recommendations that people are saying regarding policy.
I have one to add.
Yes, please.
It's also, a lot of people say that Qatar should try to make itself more attractive to import entrepreneurial talent from abroad, and as a sort of shorter term and medium term measure, whilst fostering entrepreneurship at an early age amongst Qatari nationals. So Qatar it needs to make itself more attractive in terms of importing talent that can teach entrepreneurship and innovation, and become a sort of research hub by providing residency, by fostering a sort of environment where it's more attractive for expats to consider Qatar their home. And stay for longer periods of time rather than a temporary place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is a very important element to try to understand what is happening in this field, entrepreneurial opportunity in Qatar. But you will see that the next presentation we will also have some responses to your to this question also. So please remain in there and participate in the discussion of the next presentation. I will now give the floor to Dr. Professor Nizam Hindi. Please, Dr. Nizam, who will speak about the platform to promote entrepreneurship for women in Qatar through international collaboration and co-innovation.
Can you see the presentation?
Not yet.
Doctor, can you share the presentation again, please?
I'm trying, yeah. How about now?
Can you please,
Yes.
Doctor, please
Yes.
put it in full screen?
You can see it now.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'd like to thank Dr. Hatem for this wonderful presentation. And I really like to thank Joanna, because you really set, in a way, a wonderful background for me to kind of continue. As Dr. Hatem mentioned, we really address two issues that you discuss. We address the female entrepreneurs, so that's our concentration. And the second one is the younger entrepreneurs. So we're really looking at younger female entrepreneurs in this. Our grant is called the Platform to Promote Entrepreneurship for Women in Qatar through International Collaboration and Co-Innovation. The aim of the project, I'm going to concentrate most on the results we can, but just to make sure we kind of set the stage as well, was to support Qatari women to engage in action-oriented entrepreneurial activities, such as practical training, international collaboration with one of our 3 different international collaborators, knowledge exchange and shared learning to foster entrepreneurship among Qatari women to enable new business startups. The project also aimed to assess the skills of women entrepreneurs to determine high impact and high growth business startup ideas. In the area, we identified 3 segments: financial services industry, health services and tourism, and information and communication technology. And finally, the last aim was to develop 25 startups in those 3 segments. We started working on the co-innovation platform for the female entrepreneurs. The platform has 8 different functionality to assist them. It has some video and audio communication. It has collaboration tools such as text, diagram, drawings, resource databases, presentation facilities, contact hub for specialists in the field of entrepreneurs, integrate social media to support generalized communication needs, full feature recording capabilities, and finally state-of-the-art security mechanism to ensure the security in all aspects of our system. So when the female entrepreneur will enter, this is one of the main things that they will be able to do. It will not look like this, would look much better, obviously, but they will be able to access reports, tools, video, infographics, plans, dealing with all these different issues from top to bottom, setting up a business, including the idea generation and team building, business models, financial models and business plans, legal, accounting, insurance, regulatory, ethics, innovation and product service development, customer development, including user testing, investment and funding strategies, including internationalization strategies, marketing and brand management, soft skills, intellectual property, technology trends, and industry trends. So for example, when the female entrepreneur will link the industry trends, if they are interested in the financial services, it will give them the financial services industry trend. If they're interested in health, it will give them that, and so on and so forth. The key element also of our projects and the platform is the availability of 10 modules for training. And those 10 modules were prepared by our international collaborators, starting with Module 1, our startup, Module 2, ideation, Module 3, value proposition, quantification of value and pricing, Module 4 is service industry innovation, number 5, business strategy and competitiveness, number 6, marketing and sales plan, 7, accounting, financial strategy and annual forecast, number 8, logistics, operations and supply chain strategy, Number 9, human resources, management and leadership. And number 10, business ethics, regulations, and IP. Now, if you allow me just to go a little bit into what we discovered, and I think this is really kind of in target with what Joanna has mentioned in her presentation. We wanted to look at the factors that influence the entrepreneurial intention. In other words, we would like the students or the female entrepreneurs to be able to start their business and have the intention to do. So we looked at creativity, subjective norm, entrepreneurial attitude, and perceived behavior controls, and looked at to see how they impact the entrepreneurial intention. And what we discovered is the following. First of all, we collected 303 surveys. The finding indicated that the graduates enrolled in an undergraduate entrepreneurship program have higher intention to become entrepreneur. This is right in target what Joanna mentioned, that if the female entrepreneur, or in general, a person, if they are able to get access to entrepreneurship program studies, education, they will have higher intention to become an entrepreneur. Creativity has a significant influence on entrepreneurial attitude, perceived behavior control, and subjective norm. Subjective norm has significant impact on the entrepreneurial attitude and perceived behavior control, and entrepreneurial attitude and perceived behavior control have a significant influence in entrepreneurial intention. The results also suggest that integrating creative activities within university curriculum would encourage entrepreneurship among graduates, which is again kind of mentioned in the previous presentation as well. Individuals with a creative mindset will have a positive attitude and perception toward being an entrepreneur, and also will be positively influenced by their family and friends to start their businesses. The results of the study also revealed that university policymakers are encouraged to develop strategies to promote entrepreneurial education in their curriculum, to encourage the right attitude toward developing entrepreneurial skills, in particular creativity. I think in our university, at least at Qatar University, we have a course that's required from all university students that they must take. And a portion of that course now include entrepreneurial skills, where the Center for Entrepreneurship in the College of Business and Economics is actually engaged in delivering some of that aspect. So I think that will really help to see the intention of entrepreneurs. And higher education institutes should work on creating the right environment to motivate students and aim towards integrating creative skills in educational curriculum to help them consider entrepreneurship as a career options. That's one that we looked at. The second we looked at also, we're still looking at the entrepreneurial intention. In this case, we looked at the resilience, the attitude, the norm, and the perceived behavior control to see how they impact the entrepreneurial intention. So we wanted to see the impact of resilience in there. And the results actually try to contextualize and analyze resilience in the entrepreneurship context and measure its impact on key drivers of individual intentions to show entrepreneurial behavior and initiate entrepreneurial activities. Results show positive and significant effect of entrepreneurial resilience on entrepreneurial attitude, subjective norms, and preserved behavioral control, which consequently enhance entrepreneurial intentions and behavior. The impact of resilience on social norm is about 2 times more pronounced than attitude and perceived behavioral control in the sample and at the individual level. The results also indicate that resilience helps entrepreneurs to overcome social and cultural limitation and norms. Resilience also helps entrepreneurs to improve their attitudes needed to be successful entrepreneur. Results also show resilience increase the degree of commitment and determination, risk-taking, creativity, and adaptability. In many cases, younger generation are scared to take the risk because they're still starting to, they are hoping to start their career and move on life, so they are sometimes resisting taking risk. But I think this will show that resilience will increase that. The results also strongly confirm the positive effect of resilience on all aspects of entrepreneurial intention. So therefore, it's crucial to increase the resilience level of individuals to see their more entrepreneurial behaviors. The role in how to stimulate and support Qatari women to engage in action-oriented entrepreneurial activities. There is a need for structured program of training and mentoring that will combine multiple methods and ICT tools to facilitate the process of joint innovation and startup between Qatari and international female entrepreneurs. This can be achieved by some of the following steps: engaging with stakeholders and developing contextual awareness, developing an entrepreneurship training framework, training and capacity building of female entrepreneurs, develop, pilot test, and implement the co-innovation platform. In terms of publications, in this grant, we have one paper already published called The Role of Co-Innovation Platform and E-Collaboration, ICT, in Facilitating Entrepreneurial Ventures. This was published in the International Journal of E-Entrepreneurship and Innovation. We have a paper called Examining the Influence of Creativity and Entrepreneurial Intention in Qatar, which is, I mentioned some of the conclusions that we came up. Is currently under review by a journal. Entrepreneurial resilience and its effects on entrepreneurial intention and behavior, which I also mentioned some of the results. It's also currently under review by a journal. And we have a paper, systematic literature focusing on entrepreneurial behavior intention. It's also under review in a journal. We also attended the Entrepreneurship Conference 2019. The next steps that's really important for us to organize a workshop involving all key stakeholders, whether it's from UK or Qatar, to launch and promote the co-innovation platform. Schedule another workshop in which female students, entrepreneurs, would be presenting their ideas, projects, and use this session to shortlist and segment the female entrepreneurs into those 3 different segments that we mentioned. Make available the framework and associate training material developed in the project together with a knowledge base of resources in the project website, and deliver all the 10 training modules to the recruited female entrepreneurs using the co-innovation platform. And I will stop here, and I thank you very much for your listening, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
So, shukran. Thank you, Dr. Hindi, for this informative presentation. I will wait for the question, but I have one question, and short and direct question. What is exactly the particularity of women entrepreneurship? Is there somehow a demarcation line between men and women entrepreneurs? And what is it exactly in Qatar?
Yes.
If you can respond, if you have elements to respond to this question.
I think, as Joanna mentioned in the previous presentation, male, whether Qatari or non-Qatari, seems to be more comfortable in starting a business and dealing with the business environment, taking risk than females. And maybe that's part of growing up, that's part of the culture that we live in, that males tend to get more exposure into the market, into the stock market, into getting risks, into doing things more than the female. So our goal is to try to get our female entrepreneurs, link them with the female entrepreneurs in UK through the platform and the training material to be able to kind of, in a way, to reduce the gap between the men and the female. I think if you want to go conceptual, why female seems to be less likely to start a business, I think, you know, you can go back and study sociology and culture and many other factors that I really, I'm not kind of expert in that field. But we know from literature that females tend to have, they are less likely to start a business than their counterpart of males.
Yes, and when we look at some creativity rankings in the world, there is one at least very known. We see that females are more creative than men.
True.
They are creative, but they take less risk, I think. So you know, if you are creative, you have ideas, but if these ideas are correlated to risk, we will not see entrepreneurial activity. So this is the dilemma, I think. How to resolve this dilemma from your point of view?
I really think, you know, when you think about different cultures, I remember when I lived in the US, you will have the small children, first grade, second grade, third grade female students selling cookies, going door to door, selling cookies, doing things. So they are doing entrepreneurial activities. They always try to encourage them to do things. In our culture, I think, in a way, it's a preventive to do that. So if you ask, for example, a freshman or sophomore female students, have you ever dealt with a bank? Probably the answer is no. They never had to go and deal with a bank. And of course, if you do not know the financial system, if you do not know the infrastructure or the ecosystem of entrepreneurship, all the innovation and creativity is great, but you need that additional help. And those are the modules we try to do to try to assist them to kind of reduce the gap and make sure they have the knowledge base to be able to start. Yes, they are more creative and they have more innovation in the way they do things, but we need to give them the entrepreneurial skills and knowledge to be able to combine them and start their own business. And in this country, in most of the time, the female businesses are more successful than the male businesses once they start. But in order for them to start, there are so many obstacles for them to go through and hurdle to be able to achieve.
Yes, thank you. You have a question from Dr. Safari. Is the platform ready now to be used by entrepreneurs? Is it publicly available for both women and men?
The platform is almost 80% ready. We still have a few things that needs to be going, so it's not publicly available, but it will be available publicly for everyone, but there will be an area just for the female entrepreneurs that we select them for the project, where they will have more private areas to speak to the other female entrepreneurs with our partner institutes.
Thank you, Dr. Handy, for this interesting presentation. Please keep with us. I give now the floor to Dr. Evren Tok from Mohammed bin Khalifa University. And the title of his NPRP 10 project is Localizing Entrepreneurship Education in Qatar, Qatar National Vision 2030 and beyond. Dr. Evren, the floor is yours.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear colleagues, I hope that you are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, please. You can go on.
So, okay, great. Because so first of all, special thanks to my colleagues, starting from Dr. Hatem, for first of all the invitation and also organizing such a wonderful session and giving us the opportunity to showcase our work. And also, I hope that in the future we have a chance to do more like a roundtable with the findings of the monitor actually that Ms. Joanne shared with us today. I can make it like around like a 20-25 minute presentation just to respond to the conclusions and some of the arguments. I think it would be really interesting. And secondly, it's always very difficult to present after Dr. Nitam. It happened to me 3 times before because he sets the bar so high. So, but it's such an honor to be in the same session with him. So today I want to give you briefly about the progress and what we have accomplished so far and how we have accomplished it in our research grant. Just to let you know that this is still in the middle stages because of certain problems and difficulties and challenges at the early stages we are going a bit slow in the project. I can show you that actually the logo that here you're seeing is actually a branded logo that we have created for this project. It shows the importance of education as the pen delving into the core of the city of Doha. You can see to cultivate an entrepreneurial spirit, but the role of education, as I believe my colleague Joanne mentioned, why it's important to kind of have early age entrepreneurial education. So this is actually, our project is essentially intended to kind of bring that perspective, why it's important to have early age like entrepreneurial education. And of course, we are extremely grateful to the co-founders of this project, from Doha Institute to Carlton to Qatar Development Bank to Finance Academy to Cubic to Silatec, Qatar Chamber, and Prodigy from France. And we have been coordinating, of course, in Just Qatar and Qatar Cool. So we had three main intentions for this project, and these were essentially the gap analysis and mapping of Qatar's innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem, working on tailored entrepreneurship curricula and training materials, and of course, be able to support and provide some diagnostics for the policymakers in terms of how entrepreneurialism and entrepreneurial behavior could be enhanced in the state of Qatar, and also, of course, with a lot of external positive externalities that might emerge from what's happening in Qatar, because Qatar is a very strong regional and global impact, as we all know. Perhaps the second part is really an interesting area here that is connected to the first presentation, our Ms. Joanne, that it is important to start early, but it's also equally important to decide on what you are teaching the youth, right? Is it just off-the-shelf type of kind of educational entrepreneurship education material, or are there any ways to kind of cultivate or customize or localize entrepreneurship education according to the context that you are located in? So let me first delve a little bit into the original methodological framework that we built in early stages, which was composed of 4 different work packages, which starts with the mapping, scoping, and gap analysis of the existing ecosystem, and designing an implementation of a survey on Qatari entrepreneurs, but then we turned it both Qatari and non-Qatari. And afterwards, of course, the timeline here doesn't reflect the reality. You can see the end of the project with an extension, perhaps 2022. And then afterwards, the stakeholders to look into their material, and others from QDB to NEMA to Cubic to QFBA and other actors in the ecosystem who are providing entrepreneurship education. And then the last part actually is to come up with a nice mélange of ethical, moral, and legal foundations in entrepreneurial processes, and how we can posit some case studies, some curriculum samples, and how these actually samples and curricular interventions can be utilized by the stakeholders, such as Injaz, such as QDB, such as Cubic, and other actors located in the ecosystem. And of course, the connection with the Ministry of Education and Higher Education is not clear here, because at that time when we first applied, that was not really straightforward to us in terms of, because there's the education system didn't really have a kind of like have enough intention to absorb this educational material, educational perspective at that time. But now, thanks to QNRF, we have this 5-year cluster that I've been awarded last summer, and I mean summer of 2020, which is about sustainable development goals education, and we are working with the Ministry of Education and Higher Education, and part of it is actually benefiting from some of the perspectives in this research grant. And I would like to share with you that when we first started the grant, there was also a process at the Baker Institute, and in collaboration with Carnegie Corporation, Carnegie Corporation, and of New York, and they were also in a process of starting a grant, and they were quite interested in our research grant as well. And one of the first things that we did in this sense actually is to kind of work with them and co-brand some of our findings. And of course, the question at that stage, which was our mapping part, was about the question: can state-led entrepreneurship lead to sustainable economic diversification and development in the GCC states? And of course, here we pretty much tried to highlight the lack of proper policies and regulations and legal frameworks to support and enhance entrepreneurial behavior and intentions. So, and we kept actually creating our own issue briefs at the beginning, because we wanted to kind of highlight some of the areas of education intervention, to compare and contrast what's happening in Qatar and what's happening in the other parts of the world. Especially one of our LPIs, Professor Les Pell, who is now the Dean of College of Public Policy at Hamad bin Khalifa University, did a great job in terms of comparing different national agendas and their education policies, and situate Qatar within this perspective. And of course, we did the same thing with different states in sub-Saharan Africa, and especially compare one of the first areas that Joanne mentioned today, which is the opportunity necessity. If you compare some of the cases in sub-Saharan Africa, like Senegal, for instance, you see a lot of high levels of necessity but lack of opportunity. So, and the Qatar is the opposite. So we wanted to actually draw some comparisons. This publication I wanted to highlight here. So my intention is just to showcase the publication and also discuss a bit more into like the kind of the content of it, so that I can talk more about the outcomes and also the perspectives of how we did it actually. So and the real impact. So this was one of our earlier publications led by Rory Miller from Georgetown University. And I guess this is also quite critical, because when I was listening to the first presentation, I kept thinking, is it a static or a dynamic process? Because we say the Qatar is like the Qatari population is not responding based on necessity, but on the other hand, the Gulf crisis, the blockade, if you make a kind of like analysis before and after the blockade, you might see actually, we haven't done it, but if we do it, I'm sure it will be a different situation, in the sense that after the blockade, the entrepreneurialism increased in Qatar through different external forces, as you know. So we did a chapter as part of this book, which highlighted some of the reflections of the Qatari population and how they have actually started to care more about entrepreneurialism after the blockade, because entrepreneurialism became a form of solidarity and supporting the economy locally. And Qatar Faculty Forum was totally devoted to this section, and we had a chance to share some of our findings, as well as the Doha Forum. I was able to part of this interesting session about this similar topic as well. And based on that, we realized that this book actually that we just recently published with University of Ottawa Press, Innovating South-South Cooperation, that also had some chapters in South-South cooperation and how the Qatari experience and other experiences in the other parts of the world can speak to each other and relate to each other, especially building entrepreneurial capacities and learning mechanisms. And of course, we tried to situate it because the area in entrepreneurship education actually is tightly connected with development cooperation as well. So and entrepreneurial intentions and entrepreneurial motivation is not only limited in the market mechanism as we know it, but also in so many social entrepreneurial or in so many different ethical entrepreneurial motivations can help build different kinds of organizational and institutional capacities that can enable South-South cooperation. So the policy implications are really beyond what we usually think. And part of this actually, we were invited to the G20 Leaders Summit, the Young Leaders Summit, and I was able to, this was part of the WISE Summit, and I'm sharing this because I really believe that apart from academic publications that we have been doing abundantly, this was also a very good opportunity for us to talk about green-based entrepreneurship and how so many green entrepreneurs, greenpreneurs as we call it, have been actually like supporting faith-based and more than ethics-based entrepreneurial forms in the case of Qatar through different ventures. Another modality that we showed actually here was we were part of this interesting book, Teaching Educational Leadership in Muslim Countries. And I have done the book on the chapter, sorry, with another PI, Cristina D'Alessandro. And here we try to kind of conceptualize the entrepreneurial model of Qatar and how it can be taught and how it can be studied by using the term embeddedness, institutional embeddedness, and how embeddedness and local cultures and contexts are key in the development of entrepreneurship. And we use the case of Qatar here as a case study and try to showcase in a global world, entrepreneurs must be both embedded in local and national realities and capable to respond to social needs, but also able to integrate into global markets and value chains. And this is critically important, especially to kind of internalize these embedded values and moral behaviors. So therefore, that's the area I believe I feel slightly kind of in disagreement with some of the claims of some of the arguments of the first presentation by Joanne, which we can discuss later. So that's the pedagogical part I believe that I was referring to. This chapter led us to work on an interesting book, which is recently almost published in a couple of months by HBKU Press. And I have done this book actually called Localizing Entrepreneurship Education, Global Perspectives and Qatari Experiences. And in this book, with Dr. Asma Al-Faddala, the research director at WISE Initiative, another PI, we tried to look into some of the sectorial and also institutional elements of how localized entrepreneurship education would look like. For instance, we had chapters about context-based approaches to entrepreneurship education, or integrating ethical and gendered perspectives using a multi-level lens. What is the role of agile mindsets as a requisite for entrepreneurship education? Or arts education, how it can be, arts education can be used for entrepreneurship education as well, or the role of green education, green entrepreneurship. And another interesting area that we delved into in this interesting book, another section which is entirely devoted, is Islam and entrepreneurship. And we try to look into how Islamic vision of entrepreneurship in the era of circular economy can help entrepreneurs better understand the impact of entrepreneurialism in their local country, in local context. Islamic ethics and financial literacy, for instance, was another area that we looked into. And then the final section of the book actually looked into some Qatari case studies, which was one of our real intentions at the very early stages, if you remember the methodology part, because we wanted to showcase some local cases that can be studied by others. One of them actually was the case of Ibtikhar, led by an amazing Qatari colleague called Naif Ibrahim, and then as a form of showcasing localized entrepreneurial education. And then the second one was the case of ULA by Mrs. Hayal Ghanim from Qatar Science and Technology Park. So this book, we believe it will be available hopefully in a month or so, and you will have access to it. This is actually a survey that we did, and we didn't have the chance to, and we were able to present it in the CS conference last year, so this year, and this pretty much summarized the findings of our initial survey. And in this survey, our methodology was a logistic regression to predict likelihood of individuals willing to engage in entrepreneurial activity. And the dependent variable was the likelihood to engage in entrepreneurship. And the major questions that we asked, and I did this, by the way, with a colleague from Stanford University, who became part of our grant as a research associate, who was also doing a PhD thesis on a similar topic comparing the Gulf countries. And I will just briefly run to the some of the conclusions that we have actually derived. We found that the nationality does not play a significant role among the, and it appears that the females are less likely to engage in entrepreneurial activity, but this wasn't statistically significant. The regression results also show that the participants who are employed in the public sector are more likely to engage in startup activity than those in other sectors. This is consistent with the finding that who believe that there is government support for entrepreneurship are more likely to engage in startup activity, whether part-time or full-time. And also, this is also very consistent with the fact that double career is really a very desirable option for especially Qatari men. In our study, we couldn't find a direct relationship between the entrepreneurship education with a significant effect on likelihood of an individual to engage in startup activity in Qatar. But we find that those who have desire to serve the country and society and those who identify a missing product are more likely to engage in startup activity. And the surprising finding is that those who identify regulations and bureaucracy being limiting factors are more likely to engage in entrepreneurship. Perhaps this is because who engage in entrepreneurship activity are more aware of the regulatory and bureaucratic barriers. So this research actually helped us to publish some really high impact journal articles. One of them was by myself in the Sustainability Journal at the beginning of this year. And then the second one actually is another good journal, Extractive Industries and Society, with Professor Koch and Cristina D'Alessandro, two PIs in our grant. And one interesting output that we had was actually we were invited to Harvard University and to present our grant actually with some ethical entrepreneurs, as they call themselves. And actually they are the ones who have made really huge sums of money in financial sectors as brokers in many years, but who dropped their jobs and who started their businesses with a strong ethical framework. Like this gentleman, for instance, started a juice company with halal products and was one of the very interesting participants. One of the pedagogical tools that we used was Ethics Collab. I organized this in our college, and we tried to utilize from blockchain and also social entrepreneurial business models. And we tried to help students in an experiential way how they can set up a blockchain account and afterwards engage in an entrepreneurial activity that might help someone in another part of the world. So, and at the end of this, we really came up with really interesting results that I might, if you give me an opportunity, I can help I can present in a different presentation. This was perhaps one of the most interesting and emotional outcomes of this research, because we partnered with Pizmondo, and for really young students, you can see their ages to 4 to 7, I was able to work with them and teach what entrepreneurship education is and what they can do. And that was actually very difficult to express with words, but I believe that this is what I believe Joanna was mentioning, that at early ages, this should be part of their school projects. So long story short, I know that I'm almost out of time. We had joined many conferences, and a forthcoming publication by Routledge that I'm working on right now is Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Education for the Public Sector in the Gulf, Curricular Values for Regional Diversity and Inclusion. This perhaps might be an interesting article for Dr. Nidam as well. We were part of the WISE in New York, and also a few other conferences by Qatar University. We were hosted, and the other area that I was able to do was the Lego Series Play. I'm a certified facilitator of Lego Series Play, and I've been using it for business modeling. Especially, I used it in this course that I was teaching at College of Islamic Studies, Entrepreneurship, Sustainability, and Ethics. And I built this component in this, the Lego Series Play component in this course in a way that we tried to interpret the business model canvas through Lego series play, and this is actually the specific training that I was doing. Harness innovation with moral values, experience sustainable development goals, and Lego series play, and we actually were able to work with many students and many colleagues to identify values. And what you see here is Lego series play, and the value cards. We try to create a curriculum and a pedagogical intervention in which the participants try to relate their entrepreneurial intentions with certain values, and by using those values try to create prototypes by using the Lego bricks, and then afterwards we try to put them into a business model. So I will stop here. I know I ran out, I am over time, and any questions I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Ibran, for this amazing presentation. We are happy to see how much and how many outcomes came from your project, and also the fact that in this case we have more than scientific papers. We have also policy briefs. We have also concrete things like this Lego plays. My question is, now that, and you know it very well, you are close to the end users and to the stakeholders. How do you think that these end users will, in somewhat, appropriate your ideas and your proposals?
This is a really wonderful question. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge. As you know, most of the end users, by default, they have their own scope of work. And when something new comes, it is not that easy for them to embrace it right away, because their curriculum, if you look at INJAS, for instance, they are part of like a global INJAS. If you look at Bidaya, if you look at Qatar Development Bank, if you look at other organizations, I'm also very close with the fabrication labs, maker spaces, because we are also working on that. It's very difficult. Even we go to Qatar Foundation schools and others, they already have their own curriculum. So what needs to happen is we need a more coordinated and integrated approach that brings together the policy makers as well as the end users all together, so that we need to create this space within the education system in which these additional elements have more opportunity to be actually located into. Otherwise, these can, like for instance with Kids Mondo, because that's an event they do in Festival City every weekend, you know that. So we really push them that this is really great for you, and it was an activity, but we did it for 6 months. For 6 months, every weekend we were there, and like perhaps we did more than for 300 students. But the question is it sustainable? No, it's not, because it's not part of a formal curriculum. So we don't have a chance to measure the students. Of course, we kind of collect some of the answers. So the question here is, we need to be able to find a systematic approach to integrate these interventions into the existing system.
Thank you. One question from Dr. Hindi. How was the interaction with the young kids? Do you feel that they have more creativity than older kids?
Absolutely. I always remember Sir Robinson, actually, the famous educationist. He talks about this divergent thinking, and it kind of keeps decreasing when we get older. So it's very interesting, like to see, like after giving them like 10 or 15 minutes of really simplified perspective on entrepreneurship and what it means. And then afterwards ask them to draw something based on because of course we don't use the word entrepreneurship, it's a bit complicated for them, but of course we kind of indirectly teach it to, but for a 4 or 5 year old, when they draw something, like for instance, I remember one time a 5-year-old girl drew like a hotel, and so that was her actually entrepreneurial venture. She says she wants to build a hotel, and then she was building the different floors, and one floor was empty. She said, this is blocked. I said, why this is blocked? Because she said, this one is for people who cannot pay, and this block is for people who can pay half. This block is for people who can pay it 75%. She kind of managed to kind of come up with that perspective, which really was amazing. So, so that's the kind of the interesting part that really hits hard emotionally.
Thank you, Dr. Evren. Time is running, so I will pass to the next speaker, Dr. Hassan Safari, which is PI of an PRP9 project titled Capacity Building to Accelerate SME Export Performance in Qatar. Dr. Arsalan?
Hello. Yeah, I'm
Hello.
going to share my screen. I think
Yes,
now we can see, right?
Not yet, but yes, it's okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, you can go on, please.
Okay, good morning, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for your effective presentation, practical. So the topic
Sorry,
that...
Doctor, your camera may be off.
Oh, yeah, okay. Let me go back and fix the camera. Okay. Now it's good, huh?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, so now you can see my presentation, right? Okay. Sorry, let me just reconnect. What happened? Okay, where's my... Sorry, just... okay, now I should be fine. Okay, sorry for just closing and opening the application. So my presentation actually is a bit different than those entrepreneurial behavior that we had from the beginning. So you look at entrepreneurship from mostly educational mindset, intentions, and I actually, our research is mostly focused on SMEs. So those entrepreneurs that passed the earliest stage and established their businesses. And obviously, you know, as you know, one of the main challenge that we face in Qatar is that the market size. So obviously, SMEs and as well as all other organizations needs to consider local, regional, and international markets as well in order to proceed and survive and expand their businesses. So we focus on the export. SMEs internationalization, more specifically their export performance, and we try to find out the challenges that they face, and then the current status that they have, the challenges that they face, and then we try to come up with some solutions in order to increase their capacity and enhance their export activities. So this is the overview of our talking project overview, and then I cover key issues that Qatari SMEs face in order to move to international level and export their products, and then finally discuss the outcomes and the results. Okay, so as you know, Qatar, based on the Vision 2030, it's very clear that they try to diversify economy through enhancing private sector activities And so in order to enhance private sector, we need to focus on entrepreneurial activities, more innovation, more creativity, and moving to into knowledge-based economy. So there are a variety of organizations and stakeholders in Qatar that provide this kind of support. And as you know, just expanding, the main one is QDB and the ministries and educational institutions. So in terms of the contribution to GDP, as you know, SMEs do not have significant contribution to Qatar GDP at this moment. 16% in 2016. When we compare with, for example, UAE 33%, Australia 57%, this contribution is very low. That's why we have development strategy in Qatar to increase this contribution of private sector and SMEs. So in terms of the intention, you have already covered, as we know that the people intention to start business, it's still not very high. So in 2017, based on GEM data, it was 15.7%, which moved down from 39% in 2016. So this data, I think I should double check with Joanna, but the reality is that we need to obviously work on people's intention and motivation in order to move to entrepreneurial activities and establish their own businesses, right? And one of the main reasons, as you know, for them that they are not going to go to entrepreneurial process is fear of failure. So about 42% of adult population, okay, they fear, they have this kind of fear. So this is based on our survey. This is the last one, fear of failure. So if you look at from life cycle point of view, where is our study located? So obviously, entrepreneurial process start with ideation, then business formation, startup. Then if they survive, go to and establish their small businesses. The small can move to medium and then large enterprises. But when they are in the SME level, they should think about internationalization in order to expand their market in Qatar. So that is the area that we are focusing, internationalization of SMEs. And the main components of internationalization is exporting. So the result of our study actually and our research is not just academic research. It's we try to have practical solutions. So we ended up with a platform, export competency platform, to solve and support SMEs in order to improve and enhance their export activities. So this platform has 4 main components. So identifying the weaknesses and strengths of SMEs, then providing some training solutions, standard or customized training solution to address the gaps and help them to enhance their competencies and capabilities in order to be exporter. Reporting, can provide report for the country, at the regional level, national level. That would be for government, for service providers, for SMEs, and then we have e-commerce solution. So that helps to connect the exporters and distributors. And so the reality is that here, this platform is based on what we found in the Qatar, and we're still working on this one. It's the initial version is ready, but we're working to finalize this platform and commercialize this solution. So from academic point of view, we started with after reviewing literature and professional studies and collecting data, we established the framework. We came up with a conceptual framework. and we define those variables that drives export in SMEs kind of area. So we had three main kind of determinants or drivers: managerial, organizational. These two are internal, and then we have external drivers, determinants, mostly from government and from the society point of view. And based on that, we designed questionnaires to get the feedback and opinion of SMEs. We distributed this questionnaire among all SME exporters, active exporters in Qatar. We had about 250 SMEs in 2017, I guess. And then we collected over 110 responses. And this is a kind of one of the kind of this is a snapshot of part of the questionnaire about external. So we check if they receive assistance in terms of training, in terms of motivations, workshops, funding, financing, and those other needs that they other things that they might need in at national level and from government point of view. This is just an example. And these are some kind of initial outcomes. So this actually we got their opinion from 0 to 10. So I can give you an example. For example, in terms of information, they based on their result, it shows that they are not really happy about the level of information that they have about support and program support and kind of training, workshops, and all other things that exist in ecosystem and through government. In terms of financing, they are, which the last one, they are happier here. They feel that they have kind of good kind of financial and funding motivations here. This is their kind of feedback. So our study, as I mentioned, we directly dealt with SMEs and service providers to do this study. We focus on SMEs, obviously, because 76% of organizations in Qatar are SMEs. We had three kind of segments: small businesses, those organizations that had up to 50 employees, and then we have medium then second level, which we can call medium but still small, 51 to 200, and then those medium size that are ready to move to the larger size, which is they employ the number of employees between 201 to 300. So 4% of our responses are from this category, 20% are from medium, and 76% are from small businesses with the employee number of 1 to 50. And so 60% of our study are from manufacturing sectors, SMEs manufacturing sectors, 32% service sectors, and 8% from constructions. And so the export locations of these the target market of these respondents are also shown in the map. 65% are focusing on region and GCC and Middle East, 16% on Far East, Asia, and 9% Africa, 4% Americas, 6% Europe. So we obviously know that the main export target of SMEs in Qatar are the countries that are just in the region, especially GCC countries, because they don't have any barriers. They have free trade agreements, and we know that because of this kind of embargo, they cannot export to Saudi and UAE, but they can still, their main focus are the region. So in terms of the issues that they are facing in order to move to international level and export their products. So what are the key kind of issues. So their feedback shows that 85% of these SMEs are really highly motivated to export. And they know that obviously it's very clear that export is a key kind of plan for them to expand their businesses. So 10% feel that it's important, but they're not really focusing on that, and 5% they're not really focusing on exporting. Maybe they are just focusing on local, and they are not able, or they're not really motivated at all, 5%. So about 64% of SMEs have a process and plan to export, to go to export market and enhance their skills and capabilities. So that means 64%. So when I said 64%, this response is from SMEs who have been active in export. 64% means that they have robust plan and process. It's not just random kind of export or one-time export activities. So risk-taking and export activities. So this is one of the areas that we face a challenge. So 52% of the SMEs they are taking leader risk or avoid risk taking, and when they consider moving to international level and export. So we know that we deal with risk averse behavior here. So and then 18% are willing to take substantial risk when they are entering to international markets. So this is one of the areas that we need to work. So the major issues from SME's point of view in order to move international level, based on these two variables that we just discussed, is that there are 73% of the SMEs are generally risk averse in Qatar. So this is one of the issues. And top management not risk takers, 67%. They believe that the top management have a problem in the top management. And then the business approach is conservative, 65%, and 69% they try to avoid any potential negative outcome. So they don't really want to have this kind of, having seeing any negative consequence of taking risks. So this is this slide shows the details of risk-taking issues. In terms of marketing strategy, export marketing strategy. So in this one, majority of, or 35%, not majority, but I can say most of them, they do not have really a strategy in order to export marketing, not really the business strategy, export marketing strategy. They have not really put long-term plan in order to be active exporters, right? 22% they have adopted the strategy to move to international level. And from kind of a marketing strategy and product adaptation point of view, 53% of the SMEs they have initial adaptation of product. What does it mean, adaptation of product? In order to move to international level, for example, export product to Turkey, for example, the country, you need to adapt your product for Turkish market. You need to consider the regulations, the customer needs, language, guidelines, and other things. So 53% they think about this one, and they have initially adopted. 51% is subsequent adaptation, which means that they go and do export, and then after that they try to fix the problem. So they are not proactive in terms of initial adaptation. And then 75% they have kind of support of promotion activities for advertisement and promoting and announcement and those things. Okay, so it's very important that the need to SMEs need focus on and work on the initial parts of adaptation of product for the target market as well in Qatar. That's very important. So they need to reevaluate and in some cases they need to redesign their product, their packing for their target market. And then in terms of innovativeness and exporting. So 66% believe that they adopt leading edge practices and product processes, search for show leadership in new technology. So the 66% they are very active in solving and in improving their products and processes. That's for from export point of view, because when you want to move to the international, you need to be really more innovative. You need to deal with new technologies, right? Because it's hard to go and export outdated products. And then 18% of these SMEs, they have little or no innovation, and they don't really care about innovation in their products and processes. So, and according to the KDB data, only 4% of SMEs in Qatar allocate budget to R&D and research and development and product development and innovation. Proactiveness and exporting. This is another area of needs improvement. So,
Dr. Safari, please, if you can resume in 1 or 2 minutes maximum.
Sure. So they are not really proactive in terms of exporting, and major issues for this section is that they need to adopt innovation in their products, and they are not really usually introduce new products. They're usually following other kind of products or replicating the existing products, and they try to be away from direct competition. And international business knowledge, the SMEs in Qatar, they have little or limited international knowledge, international business knowledge, and so they need kind of more training and skills for these sectors, and assistance. In terms of assistance, they really feel that they need assistance, they need help, they need training. 63% believe, because they have a lack of enough resources and capacity to focus on that, so they need external help. So let's jump to the final parts. And so this is from a theoretical point of view. When we measured the key drivers of export, we realized that obviously strategy mediators are important. Proactiveness of business strategy, export marketing, and innovativeness. The middle one is not really significant. And then government assistance, very important. International business knowledge, risk-taking, attitude, export confidence. Then export resources. They put resources important. Power distance is important in terms of cultural differences. Networking, very important. Export commitment from business point of view, and motivation, that's not important. These are based on the outcome that we received. So in summary, so Qatari SMEs need to enhance their export performance. They should be more risk taker. They need kind of training, risk management training, and they need to have export experiences. So they need to improve their international business knowledge, e-commerce, English communication skills, marketing, policies and regulation for import and exports. They need to focus on and develop their strategies in order to move internationally, not just ad hoc or random kind of export activities. And they need to be more innovative. And there are some kind of challenges in ecosystem from government point of view that needs to be addressed. And then government can help them for strategies, for kind of networking through those kind of embassies and business consulate. They can help them in terms of understanding for requirement for the target market. They need to enhance and improve their policies, regulation processes for import and export. And training obviously is important. They need to facilitate trade. Digital transformation and IT infrastructure is important for e-commerce and dealing with the international markets. And then also need to encourage SMEs to employ staff and have better foreign language skills. Thank you very much for your time. And any questions?
Thank you very much, Dr. Arsalan, for this excellent presentation. And I think it complements with the other presentation, in the sense that we used to look to entrepreneurship only in the starting phase, and mainly in many cases, the problem is not only in the starting phase, but also in the expansion phase. So we have to look also to the determinants of the behavior of the entrepreneurs in this expansion phases also. I just want to ask you, I think that in one of your reports, I see that you tried to register in the US patent. I think that yes. I received something like that. Could you expand on this point, please?
Yeah, exactly. So the platform that I explained, we went to the US patent provision, also Qatar Patent Office. We got provision for 12 months. And then we had this discussion with Qatar Foundation IP office and realized that, said that, it's better to just register as IP and move forward. So okay. We got a concept to prototype fund, also $150,000 from Qatar University, from Moribini, from Japanese company, in order to develop this platform and come up with the tools. One of the issues that we are facing is ownership, and I don't know if it's the right time to raise this point, but so now we have this challenge, because the point is yes.
We have Dr. Shakroon, which is the IP manager in QNRF, and I will give her your email, and probably she will contact you in the few next days, and she will give you the right recommendation, I think.
Yeah, okay. Finally, I had a meeting with Dr. Fawaz from Qatar Foundation IP. He's in QSTP building, but he's also in charge of IP office in Qatar Foundation, and then his colleague, I don't remember the names, but I met them, exchanged emails, and but now at the Qatar University level, we have this internal discussion to solve this problem of ownership structure, because we are 3 inventors.
Yes.
Thank you very
much. It's very important. Thank you very much. And now the floor is for Dr. Andrew Dadal from Qatar University. The title of his yes, please, doctor.
Hi, thank you. Yes.
The floor is yours.
Can you see the slides?
Not yet. 1 second. Yes,
I can see them.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of listening to everyone present, and I'm very heartened to see that a lot of work is being done in the entrepreneurship space. This particular project is focusing on the legal side of things, looking at the phenomenon of financial technology or fintech, and how Qatar can build a regulatory framework that captures all the benefits and controls the potential downsides and risks of this phenomena. I found it and I find it quite useful to look at research from a very high level perspective first, to understand that, of course, my colleagues would know this, but for the benefit of the audience, that social science is not like the natural sciences. So we're not developing new chemical compounds and things like that. What we're looking at is we're looking at community attitudes, the needs and expectations of the community, the cultural norms and behaviors, economic constraints and opportunities in a society. And from the perspective of a lawyer, legal options and public policy insights that we can provide to decision makers. So that being said, the specific goals of my team and this project was to assess and understand the community needs for fintech. So I've got an asterisk by the word community, because there are various communities at play here. There's the regulatory community, there's the startup community, and as Dr. Aslan was saying, the more developed SME community. But there are also many incumbent players like big banks and technology firms that are operational in this space, that all of these stakeholders, their input is required in order to have a resilient and inclusive legal system that serves them. So also part of this project was to identify the economic opportunities in Qatar emerging in the fintech market. So what segments of this market can be targeted, not just by entrepreneurs in the startup phase, but technology firms who want to transition into financial technology. We've seen that Facebook is launching a currency, maybe Google, Apple Pay, all of these big tech firms are launching, getting into the financial space. The phenomenon is being called the tech fin phenomenon. Okay. Also wanted to acknowledge prevailing and cultural norms in business in Qatar here to inform these regulations. Part of the research was to do comparative work in other jurisdictions to see what is being done across the Middle East and internationally, and then tailor that to Qatar's specific needs and its specific cultural context. And the ultimate goal is to present viable policy options for decision makers in Qatar to base their work on. So what were the research outcomes? The research outcomes of this project were insights. So the insights that were gained were actioned upon. So I'm glad to see that many of the projects here showed a great level of engagement with industry. So we're not just writing things that no one's going to read. The project investigators are going into the market, into the economy, into ministries, and trying to disseminate their research and give it impact. So the research outcomes were a well-connected and inclusive fintech ecosystem is vital for supporting entrepreneurs in this space. So connecting all the parts, the banks, the regulators, the various regulators, there's a number of them, existing technology companies, mentors, is important. So this is a general point, but specifically for fintech, it includes various unique stakeholders within the ecosystem. And actually, in a coming slide, I'll talk about the role of academia in that ecosystem, which is kind of a subsequent insight that is developed over the course of the project. Also, Qatar, because of its size, is well situated to develop this ecosystem. It's often been said, Qatar is small compared to like some other markets, like, it's competing with Dubai or some other regional centers. But a lot of my discussions and a lot of the research has shown that people actually find it manageable. It's human scale, and it's good if you want something done, the person, you can talk to them. Whereas in huge markets, like let's say in New York or London, it's very impersonal. So it's quite beneficial. The size, it can be made to be a positive. Regulators in Qatar need tech literacy. They need to understand the technology that they're regulating. Financial fundamentals and financial principles and legal fundamentals are fine, but when you have this new phenomenon with technology, it's important to know what that technology is. Thirdly, the COVID-19 crisis has not derailed anything. If anything, in this space, it has accelerated adoption of digital payments technologies and created new opportunities in this field. In Qatar, we've seen that with, a few very, well, from what I see, they're well known, but maybe more broadly, they're still developing their profiles. For the several specific parts of the fintech market to be targeted and cultivated. So fintech and sustainability, which is the title of this ROS. Qatar has a huge migrant population, migrant worker, laborer population, and their access to financial technology helps them with things like remittance payments back to Nepal, back to India, back to Bangladesh. Technology can really give them more control over their finances. Integrating with the wage protection system, the WPS, technology can really enhance financial inclusion in Qatar, and that space is ripe for exploitation. Talking to one of the players in another country, they said, for example, that one of the things they do is 1 riyal a month, or whatever the currency is, 1 riyal a month, a laborer can pay for wage protection insurance. Now, 1 riyal might seem like nothing to you and me, but to them it's very affordable. If they're making, 1,500-1,800 a month, they pay 1 riyal, and if they are sick, if they are unable to work, then their family back home doesn't lose out on that income being remitted. And technology can facilitate that quite greatly. Making better decisions with technology, you can compare financial products, you can compare investments to make environmentally conscious investments. And some of our research has also looked at efficiency gains from blockchain, reducing paper usage, and also the carbon footprint of Bitcoin is huge. It's like more than a lot of countries. The amount of energy it takes to confirm a Bitcoin transaction is quite massive. Islamic finance is a growing area that the Qatar Financial Center has been targeting, and the intersection between finance and technology, Islamic finance and technology, is a growing market that I think Qatar should really target and think about specific regulations. Hopefully in the coming years of this project will help develop those regulations. Okay, so I'll skip this just to stay within time. So what are the actions that have been based on these insights and outcomes? We've been working, my team and I have been working with regulators closely for them to help them understand what is happening around the world and with this technology and with these new innovations. So in about 6-7 months ago, the Qatar Financial Center created a new licensing category for fintech firms. And we were invited in to help their licensing team understand what kind of business models would fit into this category, and what are their revenue models, how do they operate, just in order for them to deal with these entrepreneurs fairly, so to give them the best chance of being licensed. So a lot of our work has been on the regulatory side of the equation, the interface between entrepreneurs and the lawmakers. So we want to make sure that we reduce that hurdle to market entry as far as possible, that the regulators understand where these innovations are coming from, what they are, and how they should be regulated to give them the best chance of success. We've also done a lot of work on capacity building across the economy. We've established a working group to help get input from everyone from bankers, lawyers, startup company entrepreneurs, technology firms, regulators, the central bank. We've had a cross-section working group that's met several times, that we've tried to get input from them to inform our proposals and our insights into what ecosystem needs to be established in Qatar. We've tried to coordinate with a lot of the emerging institutions that are supporting fintech development in Qatar, mainly the Qatar Development Bank with its fintech hub, which is recently launched and has its first intake of candidates in its incubation and acceleration programs. So we participate in the mentorship of those candidates in the incubation and acceleration programs, and help them to understand the jurisdiction and the market better, so they can serve the market better. The QFC has established a dedicated space for fintechs, like a co-working space, like WeWork, but more successful. So the firms can come in and drop in and talk and have coffee and meet there. That's been, you know, important to have serendipitous meetings with people who are in your industry. And the Qatar Central Bank is the main player in this space, and they've developed a sandbox. I've met with the Qatar Central Bank to discuss this sandbox. The sandbox is a regulatory space where entrepreneurs can go in a controlled risk environment, they can trial their technology without exposing customers and consumers to any serious risk. Okay, and there's been some global impact. I'll skip that. So this is what the current kind of fintech ecosystem looks like in Qatar. You've got the Qatar Central Bank in the middle, you've got incumbent banks, you've got tech firms, you've got the entrepreneurs in there, you've got the consumers in the green, you've got other established firms in the yellow, and then you've got some government entities around in pink, MOCI, MOI, QDB, QFMA. The important is academia has to be part of this ecosystem. So we really tried to plug in to all the major stakeholders, and I found it very fascinating. We're like the counselor for people in a strained relationship. Okay, they come to us and they talk and they tell us what their issues are. You know, I'm on a personal friendship basis now with many entrepreneurs in this space, and they call me up whenever they want and they say, look, I'm having issues with this and that. I don't understand the position of the regulators on this. And, you know, luckily we've got good relationships with the QFC and QDB. And so I'm able to then relay those messages to the decision makers and say, look, there's a few companies who are finding it difficult to understand your aims with this regulation. And that has helped to create this kind of really supportive ecosystem where no one feels alienated, no one feels left out, and it really is welcoming, and you can get business done if you just ask for it and you say, look, I need help with this. There is someone to help, or in the case of academia, someone to point you in the right direction. Okay, so this was at the QFC briefing the licensing team. Many interesting questions that they had. I made it clear to them that there is no such thing as a simple question. As basic as you think your question is, please ask it in this forum so we can be completely clear on financial technology and its many manifestations in Qatar. We've also looked at some more controversial areas like central bank digital currencies and the cryptocurrencies, and we've had international experts come in to help with the capacity building and also talk to regulators, but also talk to industry. So again, fostering that ecosystem, that academia playing the role of the middleman, fostering the ecosystem. Okay. Again, you could see from the turnout there, blockchain was a very, very topical issue. Everyone wanted to understand what's happening in blockchain, how is it being regulated around the world, and how might it be regulated in Qatar. And so we were able to give global insights into how blockchain is being regulated in Europe and some of the emerging regulatory frameworks around the world. And at these seminars, we had decision makers as well, or people from ministries. So we were glad that this forum, questions were asked, conversations were had, and that was very, very positive. The Qatar FinTech Hub, I mentioned before, is really where a lot of the entrepreneurial energy is being directed. There are several firms that I've talked to who've decided not to go through the incubation acceleration program and not to go through the hub, and that's fine. But the hub is there as a great resource and a great pathway for firms, newly established or existing firms wanting to get into the Qatari market to use the FinTech Hub for that purpose. It's got a great team there and they're doing some great work. The culmination.
Okay, Dr. Andrew, please 1 minute. Yes. To resume, to conclude.
Absolutely, absolutely. When the COVID crisis happened, we directed a lot of our energies on the impact that the crisis would have on digital finance, and Oxford University invited us to share one of our working papers with them on their business law blog, and so we were able to try and predict. This was, March, April, try and predict how this crisis would affect digital finance. And I think a lot of those predictions are being played out. So overall, the project has had various outcomes in relation to capacity building. It's had outcomes in relation to policymaker insights, and it's had probably the most important outcome was it's fostered great relationships within the ecosystem, and that's an organic development which is vital for entrepreneurship and its sustainability. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew, for this amazing presentation. Yes, FinTech is full of entrepreneurial opportunities for Qataris and non-Qataris in Qatar. And also, I think regulatory issues are very important now that this important sector is developing, and something is missing, and your project is here to try to find the way to resolve this gap, if there is any gap. Thank you very much. We keep in touch. I see that you are working now with end users, so I cannot recommend anything in that sense. So you are with the end user. So I just thank you all for your kind participation, for your presentation, and also I want to give a particular thanks to our team, Sheikh Abdullah, Walid, and Nadia, so see you next QNRF event, inshallah. Thank you.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.